We all thought that David Beckham's sons would be amazing footballers. How can you not become one if the blood of a football legend courses through your veins? Great hopes were shown by the eldest son of David, named Brooklyn. Everyone dreamed that he would follow in his father's footsteps and flare up the football world. He could have been broadcasted on Sky Sports, but now only fashion magazines and tabloids write about him, because Brooklyn Beckham never became a footballer. Today we will tell you why the eldest son of the legend of English football never got to the game of football as much as David did, although he had every chance to grow. Has Brooklyn Beckham really buried his own football talent in the ground? He basically broke his father's heart. But first, be sure to give a like to this video and subscribe to the Inside Football channel if you are not yet with us. Well, we shall proceed to start. Brooklyn Joseph Beckham is the first son of David and Victoria Beckham. He got his name in honor of the borough of New York City. He was born on March 4th, 1999 in London. Now he is 22 years old. By the way, Kylian Mbappe is now the same age, and he has been among the top best players in the world for several years now. British singer Elton John and actress Elizabeth Hurley became the godparents of Brooklyn. From childhood, he grew up among the celebrities. Brooklyn tried to be like his father in everything. He liked fancy dressing, liked to play with the ball, and even get some tattoos. Brooklyn made his first tattoo at the age of 8. How did his parents allow him to do this? It is simple. It was temporary. The Beckhams raised their son as an independent and responsible guy. While being a teenager, Brooklyn worked as a waiter in one of London's coffee shops to have pocket money for new boots or fashionable clothes. All that despite the enormous finances of the parents. Brooklyn just didn't want to leave them off. Football wasn't the only sport in Brooklyn's life. The boy was also fond on snowboarding and surfing. But at some point it was the ball that became the center of life of Beck's eldest son. How did Brooklyn Beckham's football career begin? Firstly, he trained at the academies of the clubs where his father played. For a time, Brooklyn studied at the Los Angeles Galaxy. Football was not the boy's main activity, but he attended training sessions and even learned a few difficult fints. When David moved to Paris Saint-Germain, his son followed him to Europe and trained with the Parisians for a while. After that, all the newspapers were filled with rumors. The guy was about to be signed by Chelsea or Manchester United, and the tests in Europe's big clubs were soon to occur. During this time, Brooklyn got the opportunity to live and train in London. He trained with his peers from Queen's Park Rangers. The press has already enrolled him in the club's football academy, but later an official statement came out. Yes, Brooklyn Beckham trains at the academy, but didn't actually enter it. Was this really the first sign to get worried? After that, Brooklyn Beckham spent half a season at the Arsenal Academy. In November 2014, he signed a short-term contract with the club, and it seemed to everyone that this was just the beginning of a top career. Moreover, Brooklyn was not alone there. At one time, Arsenal had in its ranks all three sons of Beckham: Brooklyn, Romeo, and Cruz. At first, Brooklyn was doing great. The school's coaches talked about his talent and noted that he does a great job in every training session and in every game. For a while, Brooklyn was even involved in the U19 team, which also included some footballers with the experience of playing in the first team. Although, after a couple of months, the English press came out with shocking headings. Beckham Jr. would be kicked out of Arsenal and no contract would be signed with him. Newspapers stated that Brooklyn got into the Gunners Academy only because of the name of his father, but in reality he can't succeed in anything. The footballer was no longer included in the squads for tournaments because he was far behind in progress from his peers, and the fans were furious that Brooklyn received the jersey number that Thierry Henry once wore at Arsenal. Most likely, Arsenal decided to sign the eldest son of Beckham because they were afraid that they would miss out a new potential stellar player. What if the top player would have been taken away by Chelsea or Manchester United? Not cool. As a result, when the coaches saw the real level of Brooklyn's skill, they decided that there was no place for such a player in the academy, and they didn't renew the contract with the kid. And that was the end of Brooklyn Beckham's football career. He was just 16 years old. For what did Brooklyn leave the game of football? Let us share the matter with you. After the end of his career, Brooklyn Beckham tried himself in modeling and signed a contract, not with a club but with the agency. he had an excellent appearance, as well as his famous parents, so that magazine covers and shootings for brands were no long in coming. At first, Beckham was noticed in China and South Korea, and then all over the planet. A little later, Brooklyn realized that it was not in vain that he left football, because he found a job to his liking. He realized that his vocation is to be a photographer. At the age of 14, Brooklyn took up a camera and the world of photography began to gradually take over him. In an interview with glossy magazines, Beckham's son admitted that he took part in the filming as a model not because he wanted to build a career there, but only to see how professional photographers work. It seems that the guy's hobby for photography is no an empty phrase. In 2017, Brooklyn's first photo book was published. It got the name What I See. The book includes 300 of Beckham's works, including unique family photos and highlights from his life. Brooklyn has even shot several magazine covers thanks to connections in the fashion world. Later, Brooklyn managed to get an internship with the famous photographer John Rankin. For its sake, he even left college in New York. It was rumored that the internship was not at all good due to Brooklyn's lack of basic camera skills. So far, the guy returned to work as a model, but who knows how his future path will turn out. Why did Brooklyn Beckham decide to hang up his boots after Arsenal's academy? Are his stellar parents to blame for this? Now, we will analyze everything in order. Firstly, Brooklyn didn't start at the greatest football academy in the world. After all, the requirements for football players in the United States were not so strict back then. He trained for pleasure and did a bunch of other activities besides football. When Brooklyn returned to the UK, he was faced with the much higher skill of his peers, who were in constant training from a young age. The gap in the performance level was too big. Brooklyn simply couldn't keep up with other players of his age. Against their background, he played poorly and ineptly. The genes of the legend didn't help in any way to prove himself, so Brooklyn simply decided not to continue the suffering and forget about the game. The second, and probably the main reason, is the enormous pressure of the press on the kid. David Beckham himself grew up in an ordinary family. His parents were ordinary Londoners, and annoying reporters did not hang around his house. Brooklyn, on the other hand, had to grow up in an environment of fame. Parents carefully tried to protect the boy from the pressure of the press, but they could hardly help with it. Everyone was expecting Brooklyn Beckham to inherit his father's talent in taking free kicks and leading England. But unfortunately, these expectations only distracted the youngster. I had a lot of moments when I was under pressure. Every time I made a mistake, everyone looked at me and said, "My God, he made a mistake," told Brooklyn. Football continues to be a part of Brooklyn's life, but he only has to watch others play from the stands. Even several years after the end of the so-called football career, people continued to pester the guy with a question: "Will you follow in your father's footsteps?" "I want to go my own way," repeated Brooklyn in an interview. How does David Beckham feel about his son's decision to give up football? He confessed that he was sad that his son were never taken over by football. "One of my sons once said to me, 'Dad, I'm not sure if I want to play football all the time. It broke my heart a little.'" He added, "People say that this is the son of David Beckham, and if I'm not as good as you, then that is not enough." David didn't force his son to make his best at football and simply allowed him to be himself and look for the vocation of his life. "You only play football because you want to play, and you love it," said Beckham Sr. Now, David hopes only for his daughter Harper, who began to get involved in football and even attend the matches with her dad. "To my regret, the guys stopped playing professional football, even though they were talented. Now, all hope is on Harper," admitted Beckham. Brooklyn Beckham's story is not a unique case. Many children of famous football celebrities could not follow in the paths of their fathers and reach at least some level in football. It's a pity that the world didn't manage to see the new Becks, because with proper work with coaches and the strong will for achievements, an astonishing player would come out of him. And what do you think? Could Beckham's eldest son outstrip his father if he had gone headlong into football since childhood? Write your opinion in the comments below. Well, it was Inside Football. We watch football from a different angle. Have a nice one, and see you in a bit.